So this boiler was manufactured in 2013, 4 digits, so it's telling us that it was manufactured in week 21, and then the rest of it is like the unique part of the serial number, which shows you what the boiler is. So 13-year-old, so this boiler is 11-year-old. For an 11-year-old boiler, because it's been maintained and serviced every year, it's in really good condition, and it's just had a bit of an overhaul when we refurb this property, so that's why this one's looking as good as it is. But I mean, you can see general wear and tear on it, so the control panel's broke and hanging off. Not as efficient as the more modern boilers. So the more modern boilers, they condense a little bit better. So the easiest way to look at how old boilers are is if you've got all the paperwork for it. So we can then instantly go to what we call the SEB book, which is in the back of the book. Documentation for the boiler itself has been taken away from site, so it's missing. So what you should have in the back of every boiler book is what we call the SEB book. This is the installation guide for it, so you've thrown the wrong book away basically.
Right, okay.
Alright. Over the years the rules change, so now every boiler has to be between 97 and 98% efficient.
Right, okay.
Which gives it its A rated.
So how efficient's this one?
This will probably be a B rated boiler.
Right, okay.
Just purely because of its age, and there's not that much technology in it. But they all work on the same principle. Every boiler, no matter how many boilers we go and open up, they all look like this. Parts move around in them in different places, so when we have a look inside the Valent boiler, which is the Glowworm is a sister company to Valent. So Valent own Glowworm basically,
right, okay.
But the Valent brand is German, whereas they advertise the Glowworm as being a British brand.
Right, okay.
You'll find that out of all the boilers, there's only 3 big manufacturers. And then the littler people put other manufacturers' parts in their boiler.
Brands, yeah.
So not at this moment in time.
Not at this moment in time.
Because of the condition of it, it's working. It's
Yeah.
Why pull something out if it's not broke, you don't fix it.
No, that's true. That's true. But obviously you said it's a B-rated boiler, so is there much of a difference in like savings and energy use between a B and an A?
They reckon. So it's a combination of 2 things: controls and how efficient your boiler is.
Right. Okay.
There's different kilowatts of boilers. So the lowest kilowatt of boiler is 24 kilowatt.
Okay.
And they range in combis. They range right up to 30 kilowatt.
Mm-hmm.
Some manufacturers do make a 40 kilowatt combi, but the likelihood of having a combi in a house that would need that sort of kilowattage.
Yeah.
So on average, you work at.
Is that for a larger house having more radiators, more taps?
But if you was with the way that modern buildings are built now, so you end up with an ensuite here, a master bathroom there. So building all of that up, you wouldn't put a combi into that property. You would put a system boiler in with a cylinder to house the amount of hot water demand that you need.
Right, okay.
You wouldn't.
So what is a combi? Is that?
So a combi is instant hot water basically.
Okay, so it's almost like an electric shower, but the boiler like.
A little bit more efficient than an electric shower.
Right, okay.
So your combi works on. So what you'd look at is you look at litres per minute.
Okay.
So if you've got really good mains water pressure, you would want to look at a higher kilowatt in combi because you can deliver more litres per minute. Okay. So you know how everybody's going for all these nice big shower heads.
The free full showers.
Yeah, that stand over top of you and absolutely just drench you. A 24 kilowatt boiler wouldn't achieve the water that can put out as efficiently as a 30 kilowatt boiler would. So as a rule, you would, when you measure in kilowatts, so there's a big sum that you've got to do. So you start by measuring all the rooms, and you find out the square meterage of every room, and then we work out on a pie chart on how many BTUs that room needs. So from that, we allow, on average, you would allow 1.1 kilowatt per room.
Right, okay.
And then when you work out the sums for every room, it then becomes very sort of like apparent that you might only be using 0.75 kilowatts in that room, but you're using 1.3 kilowatt in that room. So when you work it all out and you put it into an average, it works out at 1.1 kilowatt per room.
Right, okay.
System boilers are mains water fed, So your cylinders are pressurised basically. So you've got vented and unvented. Vented is your old heat only, and they're just a big copper tank, and you usually find that they've got like a sleeping bag around them. With your new system boilers, they're pressurised, so they're unvented, and your water pressure is higher because it's connected to the mains water.
Right, okay.
And then that just all
okay, got you.
sends the
so would you ever install a gravity fed system nowadays, or is that old school?
No, it's old school.
That's old school.
We still repair them. We can still buy boilers to put onto them.
Yeah.
But yeah, going back to your original question, a combi can only make hot water for one sort of like bathroom.
Right, okay.
So if you were ever to try and get a combi to service an ensuite and a bathroom, if you were to go into there and turn the bathroom shower on and then go to your ensuite shower, it wouldn't work. You get intermittent hot water.
Yeah, so back in when I was younger, we had the system where I would have a shower, someone else having a shower, and it'd be boiling hot water, burn your back. I've always been furious at that. Why is that? This was probably 10 years ago. I used to, before I was having a shower, I'd say, can no one use the water, please? Yeah. And even if someone used the tap and they forgot, it would scald my back.
Yeah. So what you've done is, so every shower, the way that you use a shower, it has what we call a mixer bar.
Right, okay.
So in there's a little valve that mixes the hot and cold water together. So the moment you take away the demand for you remove the cold water. So let's say I go into the kitchen now and turn that on to full.
You're taking away all the cold water.
I'm taking away the cold water that's going into your shower. So then the shower will just instantly just give you red hot water. So you're basically getting water at about 65 degrees.
Yeah.
So the one thing you can look at here is the controls on this system. So this, a very basic, to the age of this boiler, is a time clock. So time clocks aren't the best way of controlling boilers anymore because it's all digital. So the way that this time clock works is literally, it's a mechanical time clock that you just put pins in and out of, and you set it to time, off or run. So going back to thermostats, this is your thermostat here, and as I said to you earlier, the mechanical workings inside here aren't as efficient as a digital one. So there's a variation of, they reckon, between 6 degrees. So if we set this to 20 degrees, this could actually be, by the time it knocks off, it could actually be up at like 23 degrees, and it could also do it backwards as well. So you could tell it to be 20 degrees and it could also knock off at maybe about 17 degrees, 16 degrees. It's just that they're not very accurate. So this is a way now that we can make controls a lot smarter and more efficient. Not very efficient.
Combustion analytics.
Yeah. So we always look. You look. Some manufacturers say to look at them in high and low. Valent don't. They tell you just to look at it in high. All right. So what it's telling us here is it knows exactly where we are. So what sort of appliance it is. So everything that is new is now what we call room sealed appliances. Yeah. So then what we also look at is we look at the operating pressure of the boiler. So manufacturers state how much gas you have to have at that point of the boiler. Any Valent product, especially a 28 Ecotech Pro, you have to have a minimum of 17.5 millibar of gas at the inlet to that boiler. Yeah. So you can see that we've got 18.9 millibar of gas inlet pressure. P1 is pressure test 1.
Okay.
Yeah. So the easiest way to test a safety device on a boiler is literally just turn the gas off to it underneath it.
Right, okay.
And then the boiler will then go through a procedure and lock itself out and then come up with a fault code.
Yeah.
In particular, for this boiler, it will come up with what we call fault code F28.
Okay.
So F28 basically tells us that there's no gas going to the boiler. So we've demonstrated that its safety device is locking the boiler out, which is part of the test.
Okay.
We are allowed up to 0.07 So can you see how we've got 0.005? So if that 7 was there at 0.007, we are at the limit, the legal limit which the British standards set to us, and say that we can't have that. So then we'd have to do more investigation to your gas valve.
So we're miles lower than that?
Yeah. So the main one that we look at is this, so your CO2 percentage. So this is same again, this is telling us more in depth of where the gas and the air is getting burnt inside the boiler. So the manufacturers set this to a specific percent.
Yeah.
The landlord has only paid for a gas safety check and not any optimisation to his boiler. So by looking at this, I can tell you that this boiler isn't running very efficiently.
Okay.
Alright, so it's burning more gas than it should do.
Right, okay.
Alright, so if the landlord had paid for a gas safety certificate and a service, we would then go into this gas valve and we would adjust it with our analysers, which is what I want to show you the machine.
Yeah.
Gas cert on its own is 75 quid.
Yeah.
For a gas safety cert and boiler service, including optimisation,
Right, okay.
120 quid.
Right, okay.
You know,
It's worth the money then if it's saving you money.
Well, I would say it's always worth the money to have your boiler serviced. You should always refer back to your manufacturer's instructions that we've installed while I've worked for Mighty Maintenance.
Wow. How long have you worked for Mighty Maintenance, Alan?
A year. Before that, I was
All that in a year.
I was the senior technician for them. So
Before that, you were flying Apaches.
I wish. Before that, I was driving Warrior tanks.
Warrior tanks.
Yeah, you can see that this is a double A rated appliance.
Yeah.
So there it's that's its efficiency. So you can see that it's A rated.
Okay.
The maximum you can get is double A. But the most important part of any boiler is keeping the service history up to date through your warranties. So this boiler in particular only has a 7-year guarantee. Alright, this is an Energy.
What's the cardboard for?
Well, the cardboard, that's so when we register the warranties on them, if we put certain items on there,
Right.
i.e. if we supply and fit one of their own filters,
Okay.
we can change the warranties on the boilers. We fitted a boiler flue, so we use pre-existing TRVs, which are room thermostat valves on your radiators, and we also installed one of their manufacturers fitted approved filters.
Right, okay.
Alright, so that we fitted it.
Right, okay.
Which it's like getting, like when you get a building inspector out, but because we're gas safe registered and we have our own gas safe registered number, we can self-certify our work. I've not even 12 month old in this boiler yet. So it's a boiler that I installed when I said about the 8.7.
Yeah, so that's 9.2, and then what you've changed it.
Yeah.
You made it more efficient, so that's now on the borderline of what Valent.
That's what they want to see.
That's what they want to see.
That's what they want to see. And same again, so you're looking at your CO parts per million as well, and your CO2 and CO2 ratios.
So you've achieved that with doing.
We've
doing
achieved
the
that.
service,
So
doing gas safety.
So when the boiler comes out of the box, because it's been manufactured and tested in the most perfect environment. So whenever they test these boilers, they come out of the box and they'll have been tested at 20 millibar at P1. You can see there that we've got 19.9, so we're not so far off. But then we have to set the gas valve up in the boiler to make it work, and they're your perfect readings. So you can see at maximum rate it's 9.2, and then at its minimum rate it's 8.7.
Brilliant.
But this is the most important part of any boiler warranty, is this book, because every year when you go out to service it, you have to fill this section out. When any manufacturer comes out to a boiler that's under warranty and it's got a fault on it, they will ask to see this book.
Okay.
If you don't show them this book, or you can't document that that boiler's been serviced, they will void your warranty.
Right, okay.
Alright, so you could have a 10-year warranty and you could have it serviced for them 6 years.
So you need this book.
7, 8, and then you lose that book if you can't document that you've had that boiler serviced by a registered gas safe engineer.
There goes your warranty.
Yeah. This is a Valent Ecotech Pro 24.
Right.
So, same again, little giveaway things. So if you look here, so you can see this is telling us that this is a 2015 boiler. So it's a little bit more efficient, a little bit more modern. In my opinion, you're probably looking at one of the best boilers on the market here. So the numbers that we were looking at, oh, dirty. Grease everywhere. It's the same again. You can see the insides, they're just a little bit more different. So you can see from the one that we looked at before, the plate heat exchanger was down there, which is this. This thing is what makes your hot water. So when it switches, it uses this valve here, which is called your diverter valve. And the diverter valve moves in and out, and there's a series of pipes at the back of there, and they'll connect into 4 slots there and there. And so your heating circuit comes through it, and then it all makes hot water in there, and then it's delivered down your hot water pipe, which is that one there. So that's your cold water in, and this is the flow sensor. So your flow sensor it tells it how much water is going into the system, and once it's telling you how much water is going into the system, that also then determines how much power goes into the combustion chamber to heat up the water to make it do what it needs to do to create hot water. When you looked at the other boiler, you could see that there weren't all these gubbins on the other boiler. So this is what we call an ERP pump. ERP pumps are energy performing pumps, and these were brought in about 7 or 8 years ago, and it just makes the boiler a little bit more efficient when it's pumping the central heating circuit. Or the easiest way just to get a proper true reading is we turn the hot water on to full demand, which whenever you put the boiler on to hot water, it's always making the hottest demands and the highest demands that the boiler can make, so it'd ramp up to the highest point. So we were talking about numbers before when I mentioned all the parts per million and the CO2 and the ratio of the boiler, the CO and CO2 ratio. So if you look at the analyzer now, you can see that the analyzer is starting to pick up and read everything that it should be reading. So we talked about 9.2 earlier, so when the boiler's on high fire it should be at 9.2. You can see it's jumping around at 9.4, 9.5%. The condensate trap and all the way that a service is carried out is as per the manufacturer's instructions. So for this particular boiler, you take the burner off, clean the internal burner there, put a new gasket on, you clean the condensate trap siphon, which is at the back here, absolute nightmare to get out proper. So what you find with most Valent boilers is that you don't get it out, but the way that the trap works is here. And what everybody does, it's the same old common problem, they don't really know how to install the boilers properly. So what they do is they put their PRV and they bend it round where the condensate siphon comes out. So you can't get the siphon out of the back of it. So you'll look in there, which I can't get it out because of where they put it, but that is absolutely black. And that should be clear water in there. Right. So that says to me that nobody's ever tried to get that siphon out. And rightly so, because you never get it back in. So the only way to do it would be to pull the entire siphon out at the back here, the entire trap. And to get that trap out means you'd have to remove the pump. So it's a massive thing just to do, but in part of the service you should do that. You can get them out, but I'm not going to pull it out now because you'd probably hear so much swearing. The ratio, so you can see that the ratio here is 0.0013. So if that was at 0.007, then we're above what would be allowable for us to pass this boiler as safe to use. You can also see that its CO, its parts per million, is quite high. You'd expect to see that at about 87 on this boiler. That's telling me that this boiler would benefit from service. I'm not going to do that to it now, but what we would do is we would take the front off, and then you would see a change in the readings from the boiler. So you can see that you're at 9.5. When you take the combustion chamber off, because this is sealed, it alters the efficiency of the boiler. So you can see that it's now dropped down to 9.3, 9.2, which is where we want it to be. That's purely because we're letting more air into the boiler now. So whoever set this boiler up, set it up to the manufacturer's instructions. However, they didn't take into consideration that it changes when the case is off the front of the boiler. So you would then look at setting this up to, now we know that it's dropped from 9.5 to 9.2, so you would set this boiler up to 8.9 and then put the case back on and test it again, and you would find that it'll be 9.2 with the case on. If it's not, then what we do is we break the seal here, and at the back here is where we would adjust this gas valve to get the actual readings that we want to see off the boiler. So there's other things that we can do to it. While you're servicing it, we could also look at your flow and return differentials. So what we do there is we clamp our probes onto it. The probes plug into the analyzer, and then we ask it to look at temperature differentials for us. The perfect, absolutely perfect differential is between 13 and 17 degrees. But it's very hard to achieve.
Right, okay.
In 20 years I've probably achieved it twice. And that's all down to balancing of the system. So you could spend days balancing the system. If you've got a very slow differential, so let's say we're pumping hot water around at 65 degrees and we've got a differential coming back at 60, 62 degrees, then that tells us that the circulation around the system is really slow.
Right.
So then it would probably want a power flush.
Okay.
A power flush is where we put an industrial sized pump. We introduce chemicals into the system because we've got such things as what we call black oxide. A lot of people ring up and would say my radiators are getting hot at the top but they're really cold at the bottom. So what basically is, the black oxide is basically rust, and that sets in the bottom of the radiators, and then it makes the heating system less efficient. So when you put a power flush onto it, it then clears out all the crap inside the radiators. We get it back into a big tub. It's absolutely black when we start.
Yeah.
And then when we finish, it's all clear at the bottom. You go around each individual radiator and we hit them with a special tool. It's basically an SDS drill with a fitting on it that is designed to hit the radiators. So it doesn't damage them, but what it does do, it vibrates them that much, it loosens the black oxide.
Right.
Once we've got it loose, the chemicals then break it down. The machine gets the chemicals and the black oxide, and then we disperse of that through drains and things like that.
Right, okay.
But it's found that it can restore pipework and radiators from being like 50% efficient back up to like 90% efficient.
Wow.
Proven.
Well worth doing.
Definitely worth doing.
Amazing. Thank you, Alan.
Why would I buy a boiler now? It's the right time to do it. You haven't got a demand on your central heating, so if you did come across another problem while your boiler was getting installed, you could live that night without that heating. It's
right, okay. 18,
19 degrees outside.
Yeah. How long would I expect to wait?
You would be looking at maybe a day and a half.
Okay.
To fit the boiler. Obviously dependent on the time of year that you was to ask us to install your boiler, the lead time, we'll have to try and, if the boiler was off, we would prioritise you and probably get the boiler installed as soon as we can get the boiler into the wholesalers. We are in a lucky position with our wholesalers, as they do keep boilers in stock directly for us. So yeah, we would prioritise any boiler that's off over something that we could run overnight or just patch. If you needed a replacement boiler, we would aim to replace your boiler, i.e. the next day. Why choose Mighty Maintenance? Because I work for them.
Really?
All of our engineers are trained by the manufacturers, and we offer all your warranties. We're a reputable company. We've got an office. If you're never happy, you could go and open our door. It's open 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. Yeah, so at the moment we're giving 20% off all our boilers. There is finance plans available. We aren't a finance provider. However, we have contacts to put you in touch with.
Amazing. Thank you, Alan.